guess were we live? Are we live?
Ish, we're live-ish. This is from a gift. This is from somebody.
Oh Lord.
That's a gift. Hold on.
Somebody.
From a fan on our team.
Fan. We got a fan.
We have a fan.
A fan.
On our team. I already have mine, so I really can't get mine out until you open yours.
No wonder it's spoil a surprise.
Yeah.
So they got two of something.
Two of something. One for you, one for me.
Let's see here.
Tracy White from Danville.
Oh,
Got us our coffee mugs.
That is badass, man.
I think I look like a prettier one on there.
You look pretty tough. I mean, like, if you weren't one of the stars and Sons of Anarchy on this picture, I'd be surprised. I look like I just smelled a fart. I guess that's tough. But no, these are, wow. This is like legit stuff here. This is like printed on here, right? This isn't like some kind of iron-on deal. Wow. Very nice.
No, I can drink my coffee. Who's your soda? Don't you have a soda? There it is.
Now, this is from Danville. Who's from Danville?
Tracy White, facility coordinator for staff wellness.
Tracy White. Thank you so much. This was a really sweet gift. This is pretty awesome.
I like it.
I was having a crummy day, and it's slightly less crummy now.
Yeah, now you got something for coffee. Or for your diet Dr. Pepper.
I drink coffee, too.
I did. It was hot. I put ice in it so I don't burn my tongue.
Listen, you're not the only one. Like, you get coffee from some of these stores. Who is drinking it at that temperature?
Yeah.
If you drink coffee at the temperature they give it to you, you're not tasting food for 3 or 4 days.
I just realized something. You're in the wrong spot.
What do you mean I'm in the wrong spot?
You got to get them between two beards.
Get between two beards, son.
You ready to go live?
We are live.
We are live.
All right, welcome to the fourth shift, Mind, Body, and
Badge.
with Luke and
Joseph.
who's our special guest today?
This is Sam Taylor. I call him Sammy. Samuel.
Slammin' Sammy.
Lieutenant here at Illinois River Correctional Center. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for years. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. I'll keep talking.
I've been with the department since 2008, hired in for Thompson Correctional Center. I spent a total of 2 weeks there, and then I spent 2 years at Stateville, and I transferred to Illinois River. I've been a lieutenant since 2018.
Thompson, really? Okay.
Yeah.
My old man put in for there at some point before he retired, never went, because obviously it never opened.
Right.
Now the feds run it, right? Didn't they have some of the Gitmo kickouts there or something?
I think we're supposed to at some time.
Yeah, interesting. You know, we do love the history of prisons. I know we've previously talked to Mr. Marshall, one of the trainers over there in Decatur. He's a big history buff on prisons, and it just helps us kind of understand things better. And, you know, I know you've got kind of a history at a couple of prisons. Why don't you kind of tell us? So, you know, hired in for Thompson, between here and there, what's been your journey?
Really just, I was an officer for 10 years. I stayed at Stateville whenever they detailed us there. It was supposed to be 6 weeks and turned into 6 months of every week. Now, this is the last week you guys are coming here. And I stayed because Thompson was supposed to be a max. So what other way to get that experience than to go to a max facility? I ended up staying there whenever they did the closure, and I was there for another year and a half.
Or whatever?
Yeah, I was in F house for probably about 3 to 5 months. And honestly, that was probably the greatest learning experience I've had in my entire time in the department. Because at the time, all the writs for the entire state would go to Stateville.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So 1 and 2 gallery was SEG and SEG kickout, and then you had 3 and 4 gallery were generally writs, and other SEG kickout waiting to go
So
back
for
to
all of
the
our
house.
correctional folks, they know what he's talking about and why, but for any of our folks outside of corrections, so writs are basically when we transport folks in custody to court, to hospitals, to anything kind of to an outside agency. Now, obviously, the Chicago, the metro area, has the largest population, so most of our folks in custody come from Cook and some of the surrounding counties. So NRC in Stateville, really has our busiest it's kind of our busiest hub. And so in the past, people had crimes there. They had to go back for other unresolved stuff in court. They would writ them there. They would stay there for, a week, 2 weeks, however long.
Right.
So that process changed while you're there.
Right. And working that housing unit with having every different level of individual in custody. I mean, there was medium security, there was max security, minimum security, depending on the court and stuff like that. So I basically was able to learn holistically every level of the department in one housing unit.
Yeah, good point.
How old were you when you went into corrections?
19 years old.
So it was right after we were in high school then.
Correct. I did 1 year at college and then went to the department.
Wow. So I walked in corrections at, I want to say, 27. I can't imagine going in at 19, honestly.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of old timers who've been there since
I came in
after
about
high school.
30, but of course, I had to go through 30 years of school first.
So I guess my question is, as a 19-year-old walking in, I mean, other than naturally being scared.
And to a max facility. So you're
facility,
getting ready to go to a max facility that's supposed to open. In the interim, you're kind of holding over at another max. And one of our busiest max facilities, 19 years old. So you're fresh out of high school, basically. You've had a year of some college and, whatever else.
What was your first thoughts when it comes to just adjusting?
I don't really think that there was a ton of adjusting. I think it was that I was young enough and had not that much life experience to where I was naive to how it was going to affect me. I grew up with corrections. So my dad worked at Western and Dixon my entire life. So for me, it was kind of the norm. There wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm going to a prison. It was just kind of natural. I think that going in at such a young age also is why it took me so long to realize that I had some issues because of this, because I didn't have any life experience, or I was still learning myself to know, like, I never knew any different, that this wasn't normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and having a corrections family, I'm wondering, too, what was normalized, what wasn't. I grew up with folks in corrections as well, so, that's got to play a part.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, like, the discipline expected, like, in the household, there was things like that. Dealing sometimes with, the staff wellness stuff, that's relatively new. Once I had kids and got into dealing with how the job affects you, and then not being able to always regulate your response with children compared to work, it made me actually understand my dad more so growing up than I did at the time. It's difficult. It's difficult to regulate whenever you are, theoretically the authority for 8 hours a day, and it's a certain way, and what I say goes. It's hard to step away from that and then return to with your kids of trying to talk things out.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah, there's certainly a big kind of emphasis on keeping control and security. And it's not to say that anybody from security is aggressive or overly assertive, but, given what's going on in prison, if we stopped and had all these discussions on everything, we'd never get anything done.
Right.
So there's got to be some order and chaos, and just to try to carry some of that order in the chaos home, it just doesn't work the exact same way.
Right.
Yeah, and so you saw, I guess what you're saying is a little bit of that with your dad,
Yeah.
his approach. What do you remember? What did you know about corrections, as a kid growing up watching your dad go to work every day? What kind of things did you bring home, and what did you understand about his job?
Really, I was pretty young whenever he was still into security. Not old enough that I really retained too much of the security side of things. He was able to go to supply and worked commissary, clothing, warehouse. For most of the, once I got to an age where I could really understand what was going on. But just hearing the day-to-day of stuff that he dealt with, like at the time, I was like, that is wild, a guy flipping out on you about commissary. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's every day. You know, like that's not that big a deal. Why did I think that was crazy?
Yeah, yeah. What, you know, you said you've made sense of some of the stuff, like in your home life growing up now that you're, how long are you into this career? So you were 19 when you started?
Yeah, I will have, I'm 34, I'll have 15 years in October.
So you're 15 years in, plus your umpteen years of watching your old man go to work. Now you've had some staff wellness, you've had some time to reflect, you've grown, you've got other experiences. When you look back as a kid, what kind of things do you think influenced the household that you see maybe in yourself and in, you know, your father? And
Definitely one of the things that I've had to adapt to is this is a draining job. Just even if it's a normal day, just being there, some of the stuff that we see as normal, like dealing with mentally, is not normal, but we don't realize it until we're dealing with people that don't have the same stressors. So definitely like short-temperedness, something of that nature, where you have little to no fuse left. That's something that I realized with my dad, and you could tell whenever it had been a long day.
Yeah.
And watching him adapt as he got closer to retirement and seeing the light at that end of the tunnel, now I see it way more that, you know, I'm looking at, I'm halfway done. I have 15 years left, and I'm starting to realize that. And honestly, I've taken it to where instead of looking at it of, you know, I'm stressed out today, I can't do anything, I'm just going to, here's an iPad, like, go chill out. I've started to use my kids to give me my fuse back. Let's go do an activity. Me and my youngest daughter, we golf every single Friday.
Wow.
We started that this summer, and she already beat me last week on a hole by herself, and she's golfed 5 times. But just having that interaction to where they lead, it gives you that sense of normalcy. That's what's worked for me, is if I let her be the focus and not try to be in charge, completely, obviously safety, but completely, you know,
whereas if you come home and your purpose is just to relax,
yeah,
your kid's been dying to get your attention all day, and you kind of push them off, it kind of increases bad behavior in kids.
Right.
As opposed to, you know what, we're all just going to have more fun if we just do this thing anyway.
right.
I think a lot of parents who work in corrections have an issue with adapting to that mindset that you said, because we're so used of being that authority figure, and then by the time we get home to our kids, it's very much like you're just so drained, overwhelmed, overstimulated that you just want to go to bed and let them go do whatever they want to go do. Using your kids as a refuel, I love that idea, because I know we took our kids together to a hockey game in Peoria, and it was one of those things that it's fun.
Yeah.
It's relaxing. But sometimes a lot of parents, after they work a hard day at the prison, it's very much of, oh, God, I now got to go out in public and deal with these people.
Right.
You know, it's
The people are definitely peopling most of the time.
yes, yes, they are.
Yeah, you guys ever catch yourself, you know, because you're security, I'm not security, but giving your kids, like, direct orders when you first
All the
started,
time.
like,
100%.
get in the bath.
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, all right,
Teeth brushed. Now, get in line.
so
Single
last
file,
night,
no chatter.
last night I was on Call of Duty, and
What's Call of Duty for us?
I was gaming last
like
night.
real adults that don't play video games.
Anyways, stop it. I was gaming last night, and I have one headphone on my ear, the other one off my ear, so I can hear what's happening.
Yeah, you got it. I do the same
You've
thing.
been in my basement, right?
Yes.
My entertainment room. That sounded creepy. My basement. Yeah.
My crawl space.
My crawl space. And all of a sudden, I hear my youngest and my oldest arguing with Amanda upstairs. And all Amanda did was told them to go do their laundry. And all of a sudden, I just get up and I go, I do the correction voice. Hey, what's going on? And like they instantly just stop, and you can hear them stop. And then my youngest starts crying. Amanda says, "You see, Dad hears everything, kid." You know, it's just, yeah. We're always checking our kids.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And so that's something that I've also worked on, though, is realizing that I do that without having the consciousness of that's where I'm going. So adapting to be able to realize that that's not always necessary. Because if I do that to you and you get it in the same with you. Like if that's our entire conversation, nobody's offended. That's just how we talk to each other. But having that conversation like that with somebody else that doesn't have the same experiences as us, it comes across as, oh my God, you're coming at me.
He's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not our intent. That's our demeanor.
It's natural. It's our natural. My Anna brought up a point to me the other day. I want your thoughts on it, because it's something I was thinking about. Like, I know I told you I wasn't going to swamp you with a whole bunch of questions and stuff, but she brought up a solid point. So it was about 9 o'clock. She's been staying up late every night, right, because getting ready to be school time. And I just naturally walked by her bedroom, and I saw she was crying. You know how the kids have that blotchy look on their face with the red eyes. You know something's up. So I'm like, what's up, kid? And she was, nothing. And she's dramatic now. She's 11. And I go, what's going on? She goes, nothing, Dad.
11-teen.
100%.
I go, Anna, something's wrong. Stardust. What's going on? She did this whole thing. She goes, sometimes, she did this whole looking away thing too. She goes, sometimes I just reflect. Stop, don't make me laugh. She goes, sometimes I just, I'm reflecting of where I felt in that day. How I fell in a day. And how I can be better the next day. And I'm thinking,
That's deep.
Right.
Deep.
You are 11, man. You should be worried about how do I get tickets to the Barbie movie.
At night,
You know what I
and
mean?
she drops this on me.
It took me 30 years to figure that out.
No.
Wow.
I'm thinking about us at work, and I was like, kid, you rock climb, right? She goes, yeah. She's all traumatized again. I go, when you're climbing up the rope and you feel like you let go a little bit and you drop a little bit? She goes, yeah. I'm like, we're the rope. Everybody around you, everyone a part of your family is that rope. You're gonna stumble every once in a while. You're gonna lay back a little bit, but we're always gonna catch you and make sure you don't fall all the way. You're never gonna fail. And when you're rock climbing, you're gonna get to the top, right? And that rock climbing, that's the top. But in life, your top, your ceiling, is wherever you stop, wherever you want it to be. So right now, you don't need to be thinking about failing. You just need to be shimmying up that wall and keep going and keep pushing. And if you slip a little bit, you slip. We all slip growing up.
You ever watch that documentary on Alex Honnold?
Who's that?
He's like the tons of world record in free climbing. Uses no ropes. He's climbed like the biggest whatever. So they actually did some studies on him. Like his amygdala just works different, like with fear. Like he's able to kind of shut that off. He feels a little bit like on the spectrum. I'm not sure if he is or not. But he just mentally maps all these out and practice every move from where every, hand thing is. And like he said, like if you get caught up in the fear, you're going to fall. I focus on the plan, the route, where the next hand goes, where the next foot goes, feel it out and go. It's very true. Yeah. And what they tell you, like when you're on a balance beam.
Yeah.
Don't look down,
But so even with that description, I feel that is something, at least for me, but I think it's kind of relative to corrections as well, is we're able to basically do the same thing and turn off emotions. And we deal in crisis. Okay, so if you're going to deal with crisis and you're supposed to be in charge and gaining control and everything else, you can't operate on emotion. So whenever I deal with things at home, sometimes if I feel overwhelmed with it, basically, this is the task, this is how I'm going to finish it, and this is how I achieve it. And you take that emotion out of it, and sometimes people that don't operate that way take it as you're lacking sympathy or empathy for the situation, whenever it's really, I'm just trying to achieve a goal.
That's big. That's how things have been for me growing up and now, right? You're on hostage negotiations, de-escalation response, handle crises, handle big shit all the time, where you have to have a poker face.
Right.
And it's not that you don't feel all the emotions, you just feel them differently. So, yeah, other people make a lot of decisions based upon emotion, and it's very important for a lot of people. But I think for many people in corrections, emotions obviously still exist. They just play a much different role.
Right.
And we don't kind of know when to let it out, when to stuff it in. And so sometimes, no emotion, and all the emotions.
Correct.
So at what point, Sam, now we're going to get a little deep here. What point did you realize you need to talk about your mental health and face your mental health. And because as long as I've known you within corrections, I know you growing up, but in corrections, you've always been that person who speaks out about your mental health and speaks out. I mean, you'll give people shit every once in a while when it comes to just friendly jabs, but you've always been that person to say, hey, if you do need to talk to me, I'm there for you, or I know the people who to talk to. At what point did you switch?
So I'm going to tell you that was about October of 2018.
Yeah.
Our buddy Aaron, he passed away. We both know the situation. There was missing a bridge, and the vehicle went into the river, and him and his girl that he was with unfortunately passed away. For me, the hardest part of that was not losing my buddy. That sucked, but the way that I dealt with it, I was at work whenever, the coroner was able to recover him and had his state ID in his wallet, so he contacted us for his next of kin. It was on third shift. I was a brand new lieutenant, and me and the shift commander, and we had to find this information. So I was able to turn off the emotion like we talked about because I had a task. I had to find this to help my friend and his family. But where it was difficult for me that ended up affecting me the most was I wasn't allowed to tell anybody about it. So I felt as if I let the rest of my friends down in doing, I did what I was supposed to do. It was best so that the family found out first. But in my own head, in my own, I guess, code of ethics, you might say, I messed up. And it was hard for me to grasp that that was okay.
So I remember that night because I think you got that phone call, I want to say around 12:45 or 1-ish, because I called in at 1:15 because me and my family just showed up in Chicago because we were going to Comic-Con. So I used a sick day, right? And
It's because Comic-Con is sick.
yeah, Comic-Con was a blast. But I called in, and I remember everyone, I forgot who answered the phone. It wasn't you, but a major answered the phone. And at the end of the phone call, he goes, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" He goes, "You're not out there drinking, are you? You're not out there doing stupid things, are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just not feeling the greatest right now."
Ooh, Joe.
Like, I almost slipped because all of a sudden he just switched from taking my call in to genuinely checking on me all of a sudden. And then, I don't know what my response was. My response was very much like, "No, yeah, this is actually what I'm doing. Everything's fine." And then that's when I put two and two together. Once I found out, because you called me that Sunday, right? And we talked for about 30 minutes. I know I talked to a couple other people that day as well. My phone started blowing up, and it was just one of those things that it sucked finding out. You found out at work. I can't imagine finding out where I found out in front of thousands of people at 11 a.m. But having that burden of knowing,
Right.
and not being able to tell people who he worked with, and I just that had to have been hard. That whole night was hard. That whole week was hard. That whole first year was hard after we lost Anderson.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that, I put a lot of weight on that situation, but I think more so that was my tipping point. That wasn't the extent of, that was my issue. That was just the key thing that hit in...
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Exactly.
You've been kind of hurting and struggling for a while, and that was just...
Yeah, and...
That was a bigger thing.
Even in ways that I didn't even realize. I didn't realize until that time frame, and then I just started to spiral down this road of just, A, not understanding, B, trying to figure out, okay, what the heck is wrong with me? And I went down a really bad path, and I think, like you had touched on, I do try to do my best to genuinely check on people.
Yeah.
Even if it's people that I don't regularly talk to, because at the time, whenever I was dealing with stuff, I know for a fact that I had people that I could go to, and I know now very much so that I have people I can go to. But in that moment, I didn't feel like anybody would understand, and because of the way that I carry myself, I didn't want to show it either. So I very much felt like I was alone in it. I know I wasn't, but that's how it felt. So having experienced that, I just try to make sure that people know, like, even if they don't want to talk about it at the moment, like, maybe that would register. Yeah. And, okay, he did check on me, like.
Just plant that seed.
Exactly.
This is what you do, yeah.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying now is even, looking back, you realize, there was all these sort of outstretched hands of people who, maybe we didn't understand completely, but would have been decent.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone in a similar situation to you? Like, how do we help make those hands meet? How do we help people lean on people who are actually reaching out to help them a little bit when they're reticent or, whatever reason they don't?
It's difficult because the first thing that got me to talk about where I was at is honestly my oldest daughter coming to me. And she knew there was something wrong. I obviously didn't go into a depth about it, but she knew there was something wrong, and that pushed me to like, okay, now if my kids are seeing it, then it's definitely there. It's not just going on in my mind. And that pushed me to finally actually seek some help. And at the time, I still had, there's such a stigma, it's better now, but at the time of, if you get help or you ask anybody that's close to you, like, they're going to think I'm weak. And it terrified me. And that pushed me to talk to, I went to a counselor. And my thought process on it there was, okay, this person doesn't know me, so there's really no way that they're going to judge me. And they can't tell anybody. That's another thing. It was pure, like, paranoia, like, okay, they're going to think I'm weak, and then they're going to tell other people, and then it changes everything. So if I talk to this person, I know they can't tell anybody, and if they do, I'm going to have a lot of money, and then I'll be happier anyway. So, yeah. But that initial, just having my daughter come to me like, are you okay? It really opened my eyes to, okay, now I need to do something.
It's to the level where, would you say she's 14 or something?
At the time, yeah, she was about 14.
Where a 14-year-old can sense some other things that other adults have either tried to say and it didn't work or, whatever, then it's time.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that with your 14-year-old asking if you're okay now in 2023, has that changed how you communicate about mental health and communicate about what we struggle with, what you might struggle with, to what she struggles with? Does that break down that wall with you two?
Yeah, I think it has broke down. She started the first chip, yeah. Okay, and then getting some help through counseling. I went to CF2F after that, and I just, my first counseling session, I went into it like I had panicked. I wasn't doing it. I was just going to go in there and sit down, and I was going to give her $20, and I was like, I'm done with this. I'll figure it out on my own. And that's the intent that I went in with. And whenever I sat down, she goes, so what's going on? And immediately just
puke. The way.
Everything.
And then an hour and a half goes by, and it's like.
And she hasn't said a word.
No, yeah.
And I'm like, oh. Like, I had that realization of, I'm still talking. And I look up, and I'm thinking I'm going to see, like, this pure disgust or, like, you.
Her looking at the clock.
Right. And honestly, like, that moment right there was what changed me into, I talk every single day now. It might not be in depth, but I will share something every single day with either my girlfriend or my daughter or something like that, just because I'm getting it out. And I realized once I start getting things out, even if it's not in full detail, I know what I'm explaining and giving them the cliff notes. I think it benefits them in understanding me better.
Yeah, because, our kids are looking at us as their heroes, as, their dads or, their parents in general, right? And then the moment they see somebody who they look up to and think is so strong have a moment of I don't want to say weakness, but have a
Right.
moment of vulnerability
Exactly.
with them. I know I got 2 daughters. I mean, you have
2 daughters.
2 daughters.
I have 2 daughters and 1 son.
And so that clicks. Like, if your kid already at 14 clicks that something's going on with dad, that he's struggling with something, if you do that and talk now about what we deal with, it's going to click again. And then
Right.
that domino effect will just continue to flow with them.
Right. I think the biggest thing that we need to do and that we can benefit our kids that actually benefits us as well is, teaching and showing them that it's okay to not be okay all the time. I mean, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. I mean, that's pretty much what the stigma within corrections is. It's pretty much not reaching out and talking about help, right? Not saying you need help, and just more of embracing the fact that it's okay to not talk about it and to suppress it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's why, how long do people normally typically last after they retire? With all that stress and all that emotions that people bottle up after corrections and maybe not communicating. I mean, for me, it's just one of those things that there's statistics or studies out there that show that stress can, be the leading cause of death at times.
Right.
And it just
It certainly compounds all of the other, genetic and environmental hazards we're going to have from, so if you've got X number of risk of heart disease or cancer
just
or whatever,
another variable.
You're throwing gasoline on that fire
Yeah.
with all the stress without finding an outlet to sort of to let it down. What you guys said about teaching our kids that it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to not be perfect is right? So getting this idea that some days you're going to feel on top of the world and closer to perfect, and other days you are going to feel, what do they say, some days you're the statue, some days you're the bird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no matter what, like each day, just find one thing to move forward with, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to pause sometimes, but just keep trying to move forward. And some days it's a step, some days it's a leap, some days it's a jog.
So there's a it was a TikTok, but it's a poem, and essentially I don't remember it word for word, but it's called "I Took a Shower."
Oh my gosh, I sent that to both of you guys. That was an emotional night when I found that
Yes.
one. Go ahead. I won't interrupt.
And basically what I took from it was we get so caught up, and it's not even just corrections, it's people in general. We get so caught up with achieving and gaining that big picture, the top of the mountain, that we look at our day of, say, look at it like climbing a mountain. I didn't make it to the top of the mountain today because I failed. We can't look at it as, hey, I moved 3 more peaks up. And so I'm achieving, I'm successful. And that's the biggest thing of starting to reflect every evening of, hey, I did this very well today. It's not my end game, but I've gained closer to it.
Yeah, throw some Joe Rogan stuff out for you.
Here we
'cause,
go. There's a Joe Rogan reference.
Joe's hands just go in
Every time.
It's all about alchemy.
So now this is the pop culture
jiu-jitsu,
reference.
eating mushrooms. What does he say?
Oh,
No, but it was started. There's a couple of guys I roll with that are from corrections, at the academy, and I suck. I'm new. There's people that have been there for 8-9 years, and you can't leave every day thinking you're going to win. It's like, did you last longer? Did you defend something? Did you learn something? You know what I mean? Like, I sucked a little less today. Feels pretty good when you can make that mental shift.
Right. And but it's hard to do that. Like you just said, you can't expect to win every day. But in corrections, we win. Like that's the goal. Like everybody, safety and security, that's your win for the day. So if you achieve that, you win every single day. So it's hard to shift that.
But I wonder if people are stuck on the, oh boy, well, we're still doing overtime. We're still doing mandates. We still have this problem. We still have that problem. This isn't, it'll all be fine once this gets fixed.
yeah.
And those things are there. And it's not just corrections. It's any private sector job. It's anything. There's always some amount of that. So, really narrowing your scope, redefining your goals. Listen, did we get our lines moved? Did we get everybody checked back in? Did everybody get fed? Did we have any big incidents? Did all of our men and women go home safely tonight.
Right.
Are we handing the keys to the next shift at least as decent as we found it? So, Sammy, you had talked about losing your friend, and that was, maybe not the quintessential thing that puts you in the mind sphere that you were in, but it was a thing that just sort of straw that broke the camel's back. But you kind of alluded to some other things you've been through in corrections. I'm wondering if you would share with some of our listeners some of those events and how it impacted you and what you've done to try to work through it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in corrections, you're gonna see a lot of things. I've seen individuals, attempting suicide. I've helped deal with those situations. I'm on the tactical team, so in those situations, whenever you have somebody that is actively suicidal or psychotic, we're involved in doing forced meds, and those things are difficult. I've also physical. I've been assaulted many times. I mean, I'm up to 13 or 14 times in the 5 years that I've been a lieutenant.
Wow.
And most of those took place in the first year. It's just one of those. And whenever I say that, it's somewhat of a broad spectrum. I mean, I've been hit to where I'm not injured at all. But actually, the August after Aaron passed, I was assaulted.
So you were still really emotionally healing from losing a close friend.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I was just on that other side of starting to grasp.
After that anger stage, after that grieving stage, now it was that accepting stage.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're starting to feel a little bit better, not perfect, but making some headway, and then get assaulted. And
it was just one of those things of it wasn't any of our fault that we're involved in that situation whenever it happened. The individual was upset about some other things that had taken place previously, was refusing to lock up, and we did the typical, hey, we need you to lock up. Now we're to direct orders and everything else, and it got to the point where force was necessary because it was causing a disturbance. He was sprayed with pepper spray and came out swinging. I wasn't able to get my a cover up because I was actively spraying my pepper spray. And I got caught right in the cheek. It actually broke my nose in 2 spots and deviated my septum. And I think the thing, that whole situation, I feel like set me back a little bit as far as that growth, but not from the assault, not the physical side of things. I was still seeing my counselor whenever that happened. And whenever I talked to her about it, the thing that I found that messed me up the most was the fact that was being in that situation was the calmest that I felt all day. So, like I said, we strive in chaos. We achieve in chaos. So that's whenever we're the most comfortable. And grasping that and being able to take that and put it into the rest of my life. I spent that whole week off. A couple months later, I had 2 weeks off, and I had a surgery to fix the deviated septum and the fractures. And that was one of the things that I decided to focus on, because anybody that works corrections, if you have more than a week off straight, you see the change in yourself a little bit, because you're not doing the same thing every day, and you have that sense of normalcy. So trying to grasp that and being able to basically put it in my pocket and access it every day has been one of my my biggest active, I focus on it and strive on it to, especially for my kids, but even my friends and family, that I'm normal from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until we go, until I have to go back, and keeping that gray area out of there when interacting with others, and not allowing the things that we go through, especially with the amount of assaults and different things that I've experienced, to affect how I view people outside of work, or to be always assessment, which we get trained to do. But at the same time, being able to turn that off is such a freeing experience, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, we touched on it earlier with letting my daughter be in charge, but it is an amazing feeling to know that I'm not in charge for this 3 hours.
There's a lot of anxiety before you let go.
Yeah.
But once you let go, there's some relief.
Oh, 100%.
How have your kids taken your multiple assaults? Like when you got your broken nose?
So I explained it. I'm very much, I don't want to hide things from my kids.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to go to full in-depth corrections explanation either. So I've told them what happened. And I don't want them to be scared every day whenever I go to work. So if I explain the situation in a way that's easy for them to understand, and that, hey, yes, this did happen. I was hurt, but I had so-and-so that you know, and so-and-so that you know, and so-and-so. They were there with me. They kept me safe. We handled the situation, and I'm going to be okay. And every day going in, they know that people that they see at home weekly are taken care of, of me, and vice versa.
So does your girls and whomever's your girlfriend, kind of you consider your little nuclear family? Do you have a lot of your correctional family kind of involved with them? I mean, do they know?
100%. 100%. And I have a handful of outside of corrections friends, which is beneficial, but at the same time, we know who we are. And the whole idea that if you hang out with people from work, you're bringing work home. If you make the conscious effort with those people and you're on the same page of, hey, like, yes, we work together, but let's leave work at work. There's the occasional conversation, but I hang out with Joe quite often, and the amount of times that we actually talk on work more than 5 or 10 minutes is few and far between. Like, we actively try not to. But at the same time, if he's having a bad day, his response to me, I'm going to know what it is, and I can take that cue and operate with it and still have a good time, and even possibly help him, and vice versa. Whereas somebody that doesn't have the experiences we have isn't going to be able to play like, okay, they're upset, but it's obvious that they're not really wanting to talk about it, so I know this works for me. I'll just guide the conversation this way and keep everything neutral. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely it does.
Some easier shortcuts with folks in the biz.
And then you have an understanding, and you're able to keep an eye on people that you genuinely care about. I mean, they're my friends, but a lot of them I see more as family than just, oh, that's my friend. So I treat them as such, and you keep tabs on your family. So if I'm interacting with them and I have that insight of, okay, maybe I do need to check on this person a little bit more, and can go from there.
Listening. Like, that's the hardest thing I feel like can be for some, is just listening and taking those cues, and when to reach out and ask for help, and when to extend that helping hand as well. That all can kind of be complicated at times, most definitely when it's with somebody who isn't comfortable with talking about their mental health or comfortable with reaching out and asking for help. Like I've said before, when Staff Wellness first showed up, Illinois River, I ain't talking to you, I don't know you, right? I canceled my first therapy appointment numerous times. Any excuse, like, how many did you cancel?
About 3.
About 3? Yeah, we naturally just cancel because you don't want to sit and talk to people and reach out for help. And then when you're with a buddy, you don't want to reach out and obligate them and burden them with what you're struggling with and dealing with. And then when you get past all that, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's that pride, that initial pride that I know I personally had when it came to reaching out and asking for help, swallowing it, and finally just taking that nosedive, saying, screw it, here we go.
Right, because you've tried it on your own.
You know,
right? Like, you've done some healthy things, and maybe it's worked a little, but not fully. You know, so the hope is I'm going to go to a professional or some, somebody with some training to really make this journey more efficient, more effective, more successful. Because whatever I'm doing on my own or with the little help I have isn't doing enough.
You know, with what you've talked about when it comes to, and what you and I have talked about in the past with our careers, our mental health, what you've been through as well, and then kind of diverting back to what Anna said when it came to every night just thinking that she failed and how she can be better. I mean, it's one of those things that I told her that night as well, that we know every day we are parents. It's a brand new day because we've never parented before.
Yeah.
Okay. And I told her that. I go, every day as a kid is going to be a new day, like when you wake up. And every day when we go into work, it's going to be a new day. Right? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to drop the ball. And sometimes we'll get it right with reaching out and asking for help, reaching out and being there for somebody who's going through a hard time. I don't know. I feel like she dropped that bomb on me the other night, and it's just been on my mind a lot lately. And now all I'm thinking of whenever I talk to somebody is how that ties into just parenthood in general, right? Too worried about failing all the time. Going
For
to work
somebody
and
that
failing.
always has a plan, which I do, even if it seems like it's a chaotic plan or other people don't grasp it, I always have a plan as I do things. And Parenthood takes that and says, "Oh, you have a plan?" No, you don't.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty in it, though, too, because it teaches you that you don't know everything. You're still learning. Because even experiences between my oldest to my youngest, I'll see something coming down the road and I'll be like, "Oh, I remember what I did this time with my oldest. So it worked. I'm gonna try that again." And it will blow up in my face because every kid is different. You know what I mean? And every situation is different. You have to adapt and, okay, I'm going to learn this new way of effective communication or whatever it may be.
So we've had actually a couple pretty deep podcasts. You know what I mean? We've talked a few times ago about our own kind of struggles with mental health, getting into counseling. Talked to another one of our colleagues today about very similar issues. I know I went back to counseling and just that half an hour waiting in the parking lot, I'm like, God, who would ever do this? Like, is this what people feel like before they come see me? You know, like, this is miserable. And it's just a thought of like, for everything you guys said and then some, and some things you can't even put your fingers on. You know, like, am I crazy? Like, is this stupid? Is this necessary? Is this a waste of money? Will this person actually help me? Is it going to make things worse? Like, you know, just a plethora of things. And until you kind of get in that seat a couple times and you're fine. But, it's still, even somebody in the field that's been on both sides of that coffee table, it's still not easy.
Right.
You know? So maybe we end on kind of some high notes. What are some things that, and we'll start with our guests, that you've taken away from counseling, from staff wellness, from other things you've read, TikToks, whatever. Some healthy habits, takeaways, sayings, something that's kind of helped keep you on the right path to health.
Really just waking up every single morning ready to achieve that day. Make your bed. You can achieve something every single day by just waking up, making your bed. And I use that as a saying because obviously I don't make my bed every single day. But
what's the point?
Right, you're just going to sleep in it again. But that saying of one small task you're achieving every single day, and then you just achieve on top of that, on top of that, on top of that, and letting go of control was the biggest thing that I learned. And the more and more you try and hold things in control, the more and more they'll spiral away from you. And it makes it so much easier, so much less stressful to just let it come as it goes. Gotcha. And be content with who you are that day. Every day is a new day. Keep moving.
So maybe being able to look critically, okay, what could I have done differently, but I'm not going to totally dwell on this. It's not the be-all, end-all. I'll learn a little bit when we move on.
Correct.
I'll be happy that I did the other things good.
Yes. I learned very much so living in the past is hurtful, and living in the future is stressful. Living in the present is
the best you're going to get.
Yeah, that's the best you're going to get, and that's the happiest you're going to get.
That's a good point, because I think I've done a lot of that and not in the moment, right? So worried about the future because when this happens, this is going to be better. This is going to make whatever better. And, this idea of our folks in custody really struggle with delayed gratification, right?
Right.
I mean, most humans do. And now we've got cell phones, we've got caffeine, we've got all these things that sort of push us to do things now. It's really hard to be in the moment, right? So we do kind of vacillate between, in the future it'll be this way, I got something to look forward to, or if I don't do this, this is going to happen. I did that wrong, and the past is miserable. When you've got your, daughter, my daughter, whomever right there, you've got some beautiful moments that are really what you need. Like,
Right.
Sounds like what Anna said to you the other night was, I'm not overly religious, but it was some kind of very important message that you were meant to hear, because not just for your relationship with her, but you with yourself and you with your colleagues and what you do.
It was just one of those moments that, as a father, you kind of see it in third person. Like, she's going to remember this conversation. Okay, like, don't mess up.
Get it right, Joe.
Yeah, don't mess up. She's going to
Take your time.
15, 20 years. She's gonna be like,
Phone a friend.
I remember that time I said
I need a lifeline.
I talked to my dad. Yeah.
This is a molding moment, and if I mess it up, it's going to be bad.
Can we call time out? I'll be right back, kid. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do a little
So
research.
it was one of those moments, but then also it was a learning moment for me, because I know I can be hard on her a lot. And when she broke it down like that, I related to her statement so much currently, not just as a kid when I was in her mindset, but as a current adult of, man, I do that too. I go to bed thinking I failed. Did I fail? What could I have done not to fail?
The next thing you know, you're up 3 hours. You should have been in
Right.
sleep.
Yeah. Down the
And hearing
TikTok
this from an
rabbit
innocent
hole.
child.
Yeah. No, it was a moment with her that I know that I value, and that's when we know as parents that we're doing it right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like we're doing it right with our kids. Our kids feel that comfortable to talk to us and break it down, and then give us revelation we didn't know we needed at times.
Well, here's the thing. You hadn't even thought of that. Like, that was just a mind-boggling statement. But I view it as you telling me the story that you're actually doing stuff right. Because at 11, you're giving her something, even if you're like, hey, you're not failing. Like, you're achieving, like, you don't look at it negatively, but you taught her something that took you
35 years.
35 years to figure out, and she has it at 11. So going forward, being able to critically
next time she
evaluate.
plays, games with us, you can have a deep conversation yourself if you'd like to have it.
Gladly. We got to keep some of the others out.
Yeah. Well, Sammy, it was really great having you today on the show. I know on behalf of Amy, myself, and Luke, I mean, we sitting here talking with you, having these deep conversations, I enjoy them. Sometimes it is like that Band-Aid getting ripped off when it comes to talking about what we currently struggle with, what we've overcome in the past. But it's always good to do it with friends. It's always good to breaking it down with other people. So I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It can't be underappreciated when somebody has the courage to tell their story, has the courage to get help, and then when they've looked back on it, to still come out and tell it again, because you're right, all those fears you have about looking imperfect, whatever, but I think and other people know that, boy, if there's a chance that this helps somebody cross that difficult threshold of getting the help or letting someone reach out and actually accepting it, then it's all been worth it. So we really appreciate you coming and sharing a lot of deep stuff with us, and of course all you do at work every day. And to all of our listeners, whether you're in corrections or not, but especially our corrections folks, it's a job that's blended monotony with extremely high stress, right? Moments of absolute nothing and boring to everything off the chain and all at once. And, it's a lot, and it's a lot to understand. And so we just hope that, our podcast and our staff wellness team is at least one resource for people to make that process a little bit easier. And, if some family members listen and understand their significant others a little bit better, and we've made those relationships tighter, that's awesome.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me, actually, very much. I feel like myself benefiting from staff wellness, that was part of the reason that I owed it to you guys and the team in general to interact with you, because I do put a lot of my growth on your guys' shoulders because you guys helped me, you pushed me, whether there was actually a conversation with a certain individual or not. Knowing that was there is what helped me push me, and whenever I feel like I'm in a better spot now than I've ever been in my career, it's like, okay, so now I need to help those that helped me help others.
Well said. Well said.
Beautiful.
So for the fourth shift, Mind, Body, and Badge, this is Luke, Joe, and Sammy, and we're going to call it a day.
Later, guys.
See ya.
I guess were we live? Are we live?
Yeah, we're live-ish. This is from a gift. This is from somebody.
Oh
That's a
Lord.
gift. Hold on.
Somebody.
From a fan on our team.
Fan. We got a fan.
We have